He pocketed his pistol, pulled out a zip tie, and leaned down to cinch the writhing man's ankles together. That done, he slapped a digital voice recorder on the desk with the record feature on. He yanked the rag out of Rice's mouth, tossed it aside, and anchored his forearm against the left side of the coach's neck, using his free hand to pull as tight against the carotid artery as he chose to. For now. A rush of power surged through him. He could taste victory. But there was work to do before the final play. "You killed Hank Bishop," he growled. "I want details." When he got no answer, only a violent trembling of Rice's body, he tightened the pressure around his neck. "Talk." "Car crash," the coach gasped. "I didn't." "Wrong answer." His grip tightened still more, enough so Rice was on the verge of losing consciousness. The coach struggled in vain, his attempts weak and fading. His soon-to-be executioner eased the pressure the tiniest fraction. He knew just what it would take, and he wasn't ready. Not until he got what he wanted. "Want to die?" he asked in a flat tone that was chillingly devoid of emotion. Terrified, blood oozing down his legs, Rice gave a feeble shake of his head. "Good, because this is what it will feel like." He increased the pressure until Rice passed out. Slowly, he eased the chokehold until the scumbag came to. "Now I'll ask my question again," he said calmly. "Why is Hank dead? Why was he in that car crash? This is your last chance. I want to hear it all. What you did, how you did it, what you drove him to." Rice was drenched in sweat, his entire body shuddering, choking sounds coming from his throat. No further coercion was necessary. Between gasps for air, the coach spilled his guts, revealing everything he'd done, everything that had happened, plus a whole lot more that was happening still. Interesting stuff, some of which he knew about, still more of which he didn't. It was even bigger than what he'd come here to learn, but frankly, he didn't give a shit. He'd originally planned to take the voice recorder with him to relive Rice's agonized confession whenever he chose to. But it really didn't matter. He'd committed the bastard's words to memory. So instead, he'd leave the recorder here, let the cops hear the entire confession, including the big picture part that had nothing to do with Hank, but that would send their investigation in the entirely wrong direction, a direction his employer wouldn't appreciate, but that was his problem. His adrenaline pumping, he tightened his chokehold into a death grip, pressing against the carotid artery, closing it off, and squeezing the life out of his victim. A minute later, Rice was dead. Luca Flores had been a security guard at Brighton University for a decade. The pay was shit. His other job paid a whole lot better. So when his boss instructed Flores to keep an eye on Pete Rice, he didn't ask questions. He just complied. Which meant he had a bird's-eye view of the masked guy who slipped outside the athletic building, glancing quickly around before pulling off his mask and disappearing into the night. Flores pressed himself back into the wet bushes, waiting and watching until the guy was gone. Then he went inside the athletic building to take a look. 5 minutes later, he bolted out of the building, stuffing one item under his coat and another in his pocket. He glanced furtively around to make sure no one was nearby, and then ducked back into the bushes to make his call. "I need to see you. Now," he said with rising hysteria. The urgency was clear. No further clarification was necessary. "The usual spot," was the reply. "I'm on my way." Flores weaved in and out of traffic, making the drive to Bayonne, New Jersey in record time. He turned into the broken-down side street where these meetings took place and waited for the man parked in front of him to leave his car and join Flores in his. A moment later, his boss was in the passenger seat, shutting the door behind him and turning to Flores. "What happened?" "Rice is dead." Flores didn't mince words. "Strangled. There were choke marks all over his neck. There was blood on the floor and the smell of gunpowder, so I'm sure there was more that went on before he was finished off."